It's always good to be live. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, 8:01. As I always let you guys know, I always love to go live right when I'm on schedule. You always got to be on time. Better to be on time, better to be early than late, I always say. So this is awesome. Really looking forward to reading off the bold predictions that I asked you, the Bills Mafia, to submit to the show. And you guys chimed in, and I want you guys to continue to chime in on the podcast tonight. Of course, Thomas Take Sports Podcast, bold predictions for the Buffalo Bills upcoming season, 2024-2025 season, that is. And of course, I got to let you guys know that I got my fair share of bold predictions as well. I'm hoping that, some of us, I think alike. I think we are going to see some of these bold predictions kind of repeat themselves. Maybe not, though. That's what makes this show so interesting tonight. So, with that being said, of course, greatly appreciate all those that have tuned in and supported on the Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network each and every Wednesday night. Want to start off by thanking Del Reed and, of course, 26shirts.com for their sponsorship. They've supported Buffalo Fanbase since day one. They created it, right? So it's a huge um, feather in the cap of all of us that are a part of Buffalo fan base to have the support of Del Reed, 26shirts.com. Of course, I believe it's July 20th. They will be holding the first ever Buffalo Bills Mafia Con, which I will be in attendance for. That is signed, sealed, and delivered. I didn't have to sign anything. They just asked for my presence. Ask and you shall receive. So, really looking forward to that. I will be podcasting live. That event is in Buffalo. I got to get more details on that. But if you guys just look up Buffalo Mafia Con, I will be there, and I'm really hoping that I get the chance to shake hands. Share some Bills conversations with some of the people that have tuned into the show over the course of the last 6, 7, actually 8 years that I've been recording this podcast. So, of course, seeing y'all trickle in here, I definitely love, creating new content each and every week. Coming up with the subject matter for each week's show is something that I take great pride in, and this week was no exception. We're finally getting to that point where I think I've talked quite a lot about particular players, but I haven't really looked at the season, and that includes some other teams that are competitors to our Buffalo Bills, whether they're within the division, whether within the AFC. And a lot of my bold predictions, I think you'll find, are kind of intertwined with some of my takes regarding these teams. So before I dive in to my bold predictions, I want you guys to allow me the opportunity to kind of dive into what other people are saying. And I want you guys to comment on this podcast with your bold predictions for the Buffalo Bills upcoming season. I asked you guys to provide those for me earlier this afternoon, and I'm really happy that I got a lot of comments coming in here on this post earlier today, about 12 hours ago. So half the day ago. So I want to start off with bold prediction number one. This one came from Pat Claremont. And Pat states, I'm reading this on my Facebook post here, he states that Chase Claypool recaptures some of that magic from his rookie season and becomes a key contributor for the Buffalo Bills. I really love that. That is a bold prediction that I'm in lockstep with Pat on. I've always been a Chase Claypool guy. I've talked about Chase Claypool, what this opportunity in Buffalo means for him, and what this opportunity could do to revive his career. The opportunity of playing with a quarterback as talented as Josh Allen. He's never played with a quarterback as talented as Josh Allen in any pit stop that he's had, whether it's Pittsburgh, even with Big Ben, Chicago with Justin Fields, and obviously too, I think Josh Allen at his prime, talent-wise, talent for talent, is the most talented quarterback that the league has ever seen. So coupling that take with Curtis Samuel, as I talked about last night on the K Gun Report with my buddies from 24/7 Buffalo Fandemonium, I think Curtis Samuel is also in that category of a wide receiver that has not been able to play with a quarterback at the talent level of Josh Allen. Michael Bradley follows up on Pat Claremont's statement that Chase Claypool ends up having a career year. I love that take as well. To kind of follow up a career season, not just a season where he makes the roster, but a season in which, he obviously puts forth the best season that he's ever had. Career year alludes to, bold prediction wise, over 800 yards, over 8 touchdowns. I don't know if it'll be a career year, but I think he's going to have an impact on this team, especially if he makes, of course, that 53-man roster. He would have to in order to do so. So it starts with Chase Claypool making this team, and it ends with him being productive, right? Nathan Joseph, big-time supporter of mine. He's been a Thomas Take viewer, listener, subscriber, as you all should be, subscribing to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on YouTube. Hit that bell. You'll get all the notifications whenever I post a YouTube short. My shorts are really popping, and that's really exciting as well. Whether it's football takes, fantasy football, MMA content, boxing content, baseball content, all the content that I put out there, you can find it there too. Nathan Joseph says, the Buffalo Bills eat half of Dawson Knox's contract, and they send him to a team on a need of a tight end, I think he meant to say, for a third-round draft choice. Now, that's bold because Dawson Knox, I feel like Dawson Knox is just one of those culture-type guys that he's in lockstep with Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, and he's really, really tight with Josh Allen. And I think that was a big part of why he got the extension that he got, as well as the fact that he is a good player. Now, Dalton Kincaid and his ability and what he brings to the table is one thing, but Dawson Knox is a perfect complement to Dalton Kincaid, and not many teams have the luxury of having not just one solid tight end, but two. And the last time I can remember a team having two tight ends as good as these two guys at their best, Dawson Knox is a red zone threat. Dalton Kincaid is, I think, probably one of the best up-and-coming possession-type tight ends in the league. So if they're both firing on all cylinders, if they're both healthy, it is a little bit Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez-esque. Maybe not in the terms of the athleticism that both of those guys shared together with the New England Patriots, but I think in terms of the talent, 100%. So I'm not too crazy about breaking that up. So to me, that is a bold prediction. Staying on the tight end train, Shane Courtney, who is also part of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Dynasty League, as long as he checks his stuff, Shane Courtney says Dalton Kincaid surpasses Travis Kelce as the best tight end in the NFL and finishes the season with the most receptions, yards, and touchdowns for a tight end in the entire league. He also breaks Kelce's single-season receiving yards record for a tight end by eclipsing 1,500 receiving yards. Now, Shane's statement to me is more true, rings truer in the sense that Kincaid can finish the season with the most receptions, with the most yards, and the most touchdowns for tight ends, because he is kind of like the pseudo wide receiver one as it stands right now for the Buffalo Bills. On paper, I think anyone would say that the team is structured offensively in the sense that they can be a dynamic rushing offense with Dalton Kincaid leading the way as the most targeted pass-catching threat in this offense. But 1,500 receiving yards is really bold. I don't think that'll be the case, but I do think he could be the leading receiver on this team. So I'm going to agree with half of this bold prediction, seeing it as a legitimate, decent, bold prediction. But 1,500 yards, as Tyler Bush replies, is a little bit reckless. So it is crazy fun, though, in terms of the thought there. Tyler Bush goes on the defensive side of the ball. So for the first time in this thread, we start to hear takes on the defensive side of the ball. And to me, more obviously than any take on Von Miller being a negative one or a positive one, I think there's easy takes to be found with a guy like Gregory Rousseau. And that's where Tyler Bush chimes in and says Gregory Rousseau has 15 sacks. Now, outside of Leonard Floyd, it's been a long time since a Buffalo Bills defensive end has had over 10 sacks. I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head the last guy to do it. I believe it was Mario Williams back in 2014. So it's been over a decade since a defensive end outside of Leonard Floyd, who is no longer on the Buffalo Bills, has had more than 10 sacks. So if Gregory Rousseau were to break out and have like this 15 sack type season, we would be in really good shape, right? That would mean the defense took a new step rather than having defensive ends that are more run stuffers, defensive ends that have, kind of been tackle for loss guys. We would have a defensive end that is a true pass rusher, that has seen his game evolve each and every year. I've looked at AJ Epinesa. I've looked at Gregory Rousseau. I see both guys as two players that are getting better. It's been a slow burn. It's been like the Oppenheimer of progression for both of these guys. But in all sincerity, I do see the talent that made these players the top round picks, first, second round picks that they were. And I do see the almost mirroring effect between both of these guys from their success in college to the success in the pros. I think what made them successful in college is starting to be seen in the pros, and that's really, really exciting. So I love the fact that Gregory Rousseau was mentioned. RJ Smith, he's a Yankee fan, but he's probably one of the only Yankee fans that I actually enjoy chatting with. I'm just teasing, but RJ Smith, great guy. He says that Keon Coleman has the exact same production this year as Stephon Diggs did last year. So let's look at that. Let's look at the production of Stephon Diggs last season by going to Pro Football Reference. Now, I've really been frustrated with, Diggs over the last couple months. I was a huge supporter of his and, thought a lot of the reports of him being a somewhat of a diva to the team were a little bit overblown. But upon further review, it doesn't appear to be the case, right? He's no longer a Buffalo Bill. He's a Houston Texan coming off of a 107 catch season, almost 1,200 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. And we know that the first half of the season was okay. The second half was pretty terrible. So if Keon Coleman puts up those types of numbers, over 1,000 receiving yards, almost 1,200, 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns as a rookie, then this will make the Buffalo Bills, in particular Brandon Beane, look like a genius. And that's something that I think is a very bold prediction because it's really hard for any rookie to come in and make an impact right away. It's an uphill climb. A lot of rookies have done it, right? But it's more likely not to happen than it is to happen, right? So Keon Coleman, for me, I just want to see progression. I want to see consistency progression-wise. I do think his skills kind of match what Josh Allen does really well. Josh Allen extends plays. Josh Allen makes something out of nothing. Keon Coleman makes something out of nothing as a contested catch, runs the ends of his routes to create a new route. That's what will really help Josh Allen in comparison to, previously with Stephon Diggs. Diggs was a little bit of that too, but Diggs was more of a precise route runner, more of a technician wide receiver, whereas Keon Coleman, I look at him as a true dog of a wide receiver. He's a little bit more grit than, Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs. So I'm looking forward to seeing that and how that translates. That's a cool take. Doug Clock says, how about James Cook surpasses 2,000 all-purpose yards? James Cook has the ability to do that. James Cook can get big-time yards after catch. He just has to catch the ball. And there were massive amounts of clutch drops in which James Cook really let the Buffalo Bills down in big moments. So if Cook is going to be that, if Cook is going to be this, all-purpose type threat that the great Thurman Thomas was for the Buffalo Bills and leading the, yards from scrimmage in the National Football League 4 years running as a running back for the Buffalo Bills as he embarked on a Hall of Fame career, obviously, James Cook is going to have to catch the ball, and he's going to have to be a reliable target for Josh Allen. Thus far, he is not. He has not done those things. So we're going to have to see a hell of a lot more from James Cook in that department than what we have seen in recent, years. The fumbling has been a little bit of a problem. The drops have been even more of a problem, I think, in terms of last season. So can he do it? Yes. I think the world of James Cook. I think his ability in open space could make him one of the best running backs in the league, but he has to catch the ball, and goes without saying, but he hasn't done that at a high level yet in the National Football League. Paul Schumacher, longtime buddy of mine, former coworker back in the day. Buffalo Bills have the number one defense and everyone stays healthy. And the Buffalo Bills achieve the number one seed. And the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl over the Minnesota Vikings. So that is a lot, Paul. That's like a three-prong bold prediction. Paul states that the Bills have the number one defense, which that could happen under the basis of other bold predictions that, a guy like Greg Rousseau could have 15 sacks. If Rousseau has 15 sacks, how many other sacks will the other guys have? Only God knows, right? So that's a bold prediction, but everyone stays healthy. That would be a first. Paul also says they get the number one seed. That is long eluded the Buffalo Bills in this Josh Allen era. I think they would have got it had it not been for the shocking aftermath of the Damar Hamlin situation, right? That the league didn't progress that game, and they ended up bumping the Bills down because they were like a game and a half back or whatever from KC, a half game back, something crazy. I can't remember the details on that, but I think I'm hitting the nail on the head. But winning the Super Bowl over the Minnesota Vikings might be the most bold take of them all, because Minnesota is going to be starting a rookie quarterback more likely than not, or Sam Darnold. So either J.J. McCarthy is going to have the greatest rookie season since C.J. Stroud a year ago by actually leading his team to the Super Bowl, unlike Stroud, or Sam Darnold is going to prove to all the peeps that rated him higher than Josh Allen in 2018's NFL draft rankings that Sam Darnold was the man and that Josh Allen is not. That's an even bolder prediction. So Paul is really going all out. Maybe there's a little bit of facetiousness to what he's saying, a little bit of a hyperbole to what he's saying, based on the fact that both of the Vikings and the Bills have never won a Super Bowl. That'd be cool to see two teams that have never won a Super Bowl, that have lost 4 Super Bowls each. Obviously, Buffalo did it 4 years in a row. The Vikings lost them 4 separate times in separate years, right? So that would be cool. That would be a fun one. And then wide receiver Steve Clemens says wide receiver core, maybe even more importantly, the wide receiver room will be as productive or more than last year. That kind of piggybacks off of R.J. Smith's take that the wide receivers will be just fine. And I believe in that take. I don't think that's a bold take. I think that's just a truth-talking take from Steve as well as RJ, that they have enough. They have an MVP caliber quarterback that is delivering the football at the best rate with the best statistics, total touchdowns the last 4 seasons compared to anybody. Josh Allen has far and away been above everybody in that list. He's also been above everybody in that list in terms of interceptions. But if you were to cut those interceptions even in half, Josh Allen will be even further ahead of the total touchdowns mark, in which he is already far ahead of those that are even second or third in that category. Which leads me to believe that due to the fact that Josh Allen won't have to force the football, Josh Allen will be able to kind of pick his spots, kind of be a little bit of a Sugar Ray Leonard out there, if you will, in terms of the quarterback position. Sugar Ray Leonard, he loved to pick his punches. He loved to go to the body just as much to go to the head. He loved to shake and bake and just make something out of nothing. Josh Allen's going to do that this year. And I think that this is going to be the year. It's my first bold prediction that Josh Allen wins the Most Valuable Player of the Year award. And truthfully, I thought he should have done it last year. Last year, he was the league's MVP. He had 18 rushing touchdowns, for Christ's sakes. He also threw for a gazillion yards, threw a lot of interceptions, but Buffalo had their back against the wall. They were 6-6. They had to win 7 straight weeks in order to get to the AFC divisional crown, which they had to go on the road against Miami, a tough team. Did just that, beat Miami in clutch performances by Josh Allen, and they won a playoff game. They get to the divisional round. They came up short. I think they were about a player or two away from beating the Chiefs once again. So Josh Allen wins the league's Most Valuable Player award. That is my first bold prediction. As well, to kind of go beyond that, Buffalo wins the AFC. I see Buffalo winning the AFC conference, not just the AFC East, but the conference, which means the Buffalo Bills will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, which would mean they're going to the Super Bowl. According to me, that's the prediction. That's the bold prediction. In terms of the regular season, yeah, maybe the Bills lose a game or 2 or 3, but one of those 2 or 3 losses is to an AFC East team, and it's against the New York Jets. I think Buffalo is actually going to sweep Miami, sweep the New England Patriots, and they'll lose 1 to the Jets because I think the Jets defense is one of the best in the league. Plus, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, Breece Hall, one of the better running backs in the league. I feel like Buffalo has a tough time with running backs like him. So I could see the Bills losing only 1 AFC East game, which means they win the division, and they're able to win it for the 5th straight season. So there you have it. I'm really just pumped for the fact that we got a lot of content coming out under this Thomas Takes Sports Podcast umbrella. Talked about it so many times that I love to put out content that is different. I love talking about the Buffalo Bills. I love being on this podcast Wednesdays at 8, but I also like to show other things that I like to do and talk about other topics that I like to talk about. And I told you guys that I was going to be coming at you guys with a great Buffalo Bills podcast, but I would be remiss to not talk about what is going on with one of the biggest fights in mixed martial arts. And I was kind of requested to talk about this by many of my followers. What is my take on the kind of hoopla, or shall I say, situation with the potential cancellation of Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler? Now, this is a fight that I've been waiting for about 2 years, and we're only 17 days away from it. And the UFC has not made any claim to whether or not they are actually going to go forward with this fight. They haven't talked about whether, Conor got hurt or is there a contract issue. There has been no discussion whatsoever as to how or why this fight isn't going to happen. But those in the fight game that are even more tapped in than I, that I give full tip of the cap to as far as their sources and what they're saying, this fight is on life support. That's what I've heard from a lot of people in the know. That's what I've heard from people that are tapped into this game just as much as I am, if not more. And there are multiple reasons for that. Some pertain to an injury. Some pertain to the UFC and Conor McGregor's relationship, as that has had its own peaks and valleys over the years. Looks like this fight could get canceled. The UFC's working overtime due to an injury, as well as a little bit of frustration on Conor McGregor's end that this fight was made, when it was made, how it was made, and the timing not being exactly right for him to come back. Believe it or not, there are a lot of other health issues that Conor has kind of gone through in this transition the leg surgery, the leg injury was initially one that didn't take, which required another surgery and then another surgery that most people have not heard about, that most people have not talked about, that most people have kind of scoffed at. And they've said, well, he's been training for a while. Um, what's the situation? Well, yeah, he's been training, but he's getting accustomed to his new leg, essentially, his new functionality, or lack thereof, is different functionality from the way his leg was before, which was just like yours and mine, right? With the normal femur bone, no titanium rod, nothing holding his leg in place. This is not just any other injury. There's been no fighter that has been able to come back from this at the same level that they were at before. And one would argue that Conor McGregor was kind of on the downturn even prior to this injury. So this added injury over the last 3 years, and it happened 3 years ago, has added just so much intrigue to whether or not this is going to be the greatest comeback of all time in combat sports UFC history, or is it going to be a comeback story that never was? And it's trending to the fact that June 29th, as we sit here, June 12th, I do not feel confident that I'll be sitting in my living room on my new 65-inch TV, thanks to Samsung, thanks to Best Buy. I do not feel confident that I will be watching Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler as it stands right now. The situation is ever evolving, but I don't believe that if we do get this fight, we will even have a Conor McGregor that is at 50, 60%. Could be even less than that. And is that Conor McGregor good enough to beat Iron Michael Chandler? It's another interesting topic, right? As well, fantasy football articles are coming at you on my Substack. My Substack, if you don't know what Substack is, it's a really great site for writers, journalists to put out articles pertaining to whatever they want to write about. It's an open platform. People can comment on your articles, view them, read them in their entirety for free. You can also subscribe to what is called a newsletter. So anytime I write a new article, you guys will get emailed as soon as that article is posted. Thus far, I've put together a wide variety of articles between the wide receiver draft class of 2024, the return of Lindy Ruff to Buffalo, Drew Bledsoe's days in Buffalo. I got some really cool inside information on Drew Bledsoe's time here that I thought was really cool post the roast of Tom Brady that Drew Bledsoe was a part of. That was a really cool piece to do. And that is at ryanthomas.take.substack.com. So, of course, fantasy football articles being my main focus right now. I just put out my 10th ranked quarterback of 2024, as well as my 9th ranked quarterback of 2024. Jordan Love at number 10 of the Green Bay Packers, number 10 in my rankings. And at number 9, I got Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals. So tomorrow I'll post 8 and 7. Next day I'll post 6 and 5. Day after that, I'll post 4 and 3, and then the final day, I'll post 2 and 1. Over this whole week, I will be posting those articles. So you guys will get a great sense of who I have in my top 10 quarterback rankings. I'll do a top 10 running backs rankings. I'll do a top 10 wide receiver rankings. And once these articles are posted, I'll then be putting out graphics with my big rankings, top 25, top 30 for all of the dynasty, keeper, and or redraft leagues that are out there. So I want to help you guys win your league. I want to help you guys win some money. I want to help you guys simply, if you're not playing for money, that's cool too. Win some bragging rights. If you're playing against your dad like me, if you're playing against your uncle, you're playing against your best buddy, you want to beat them. That's just the nature of the beast, and vice versa. You know, my dad wants to beat me this year just as much as I want to beat him, but more oftentimes than not, I succeed in that quest. So really excited to see more views on those articles, more subscribers. Great article coming out on CJ Stroud as a part of this top 10 that I talked to a Houston Texans beat writer. I've got a lot of really cool conversation pieces that I've added to these, reaching out to local beat writers for other teams to talk about and write about these players that I'm really excited to just rank inside my top 10 quarterback list for fantasy football. I think this is a really great top 10. I love the 10 quarterbacks that I have in the top 10 here. And I'm looking forward to finishing that out at the end of this week. And then next week, we'll go on to running backs. Week after that, we'll go on to wide receivers, tight ends. And I think it's going to really shake some things up. So really, really excited for the new stuff coming. Training camp right around the corner. Buffalo Bills season will be here before we know it. It's June. We're in the summertime. I'm golfing a ton, trying to, in the midst of, changing some things up. My new place, my new studio, whatever you want to call it, game room, whatever you want to call it, behind me. Really excited to just continue to put out great episodes, continue to reach out to the fans, the Bills Mafia, as they continue to reach out to me. I've met great people over the last 8 years. I want to continue to build new relationships, new friendships over the course of this time. And you guys have been phenomenal. I've met so many awesome people over the course of this journey. And I look forward to meeting more this upcoming July 20th. Buffalo Bills Mafia Con. Sign me up. That is got my name written all over it. So really excited to be a part of that. I let Justice General know I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Barring anything crazy at work, I'm ready for it. So I'm going to make it happen. So I'm greatly appreciative to everybody that's tuned in tonight. Always like to go 30, 35 minutes. We're at the 32-minute mark. Thomas Take Sports Podcast is live, will be live every single Wednesday at 8, right here on the Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network. I have some former Buffalo Bills coming on the show. I have some big-time Buffalo beat writers, journalists coming on the show. I've reached out to the who's who, and I'm really excited to get some great guests on this podcast, get that guest list rolling heading into the season and, of course, during the season. So with that being said, I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Ryan Thomas Take, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Go Bills.